This is an open letter to my pink-skinned friends. Uh, some of you might wonder, which you have wondered out loud, that uh, if I, the speaker in this case, I'm not very happy. Why don't I go back to where the fuck I came from? Well, it was fuck over there. No, it was worse than fuck. It was shit over there. Am I planning to go back? No, I hope not, because it's shit over there. Culture, history, personalities, the lack of cognitive power and more emotional people. You see, if you have more of one, you have less of the other. So less cognitive and more emotional people reside in hotter climates. I'm not sure how simpler to put this. People of a warmer climate become a little more emotional, as well as becoming, having to become more physical in order to withstand the harsher climate. So the personalities go with climate. Don't ask me why. I didn't write the rules. I didn't write physics or biology. So in these areas of the world, harsh climate, life often very fleeting due to this volatility. It is what it is. We can fix it by more traveling and more tourism. If more traveling and more tourism is provided, tourism overseas, not in fucking cruise liners. No. Tourism somewhere else. Somewhere that you don't see what you see every day at home, owning gold. It's cruise liners is sort of like, a 5-star hotel, instead of spending, a bunch of money in a 5-star resort on land, let me spend a bunch of money in a 5-star resort on a floating contraption. But the point of tourism is the meeting of minds, especially extended tourism of 6 months, a year, 2 years. It gives you a great understanding of the locals, and it gives the locals a little bit of understanding of what real America is. So to answer that question, no, I'm grateful that I'm here. And if you see me picking on issues, my objective is, why not make it better? Why go through a malicious idea, such as let's go spy on them with spies, which Uncle Sam has been caught doing. So if you can have your nationals over there on the ground, a bunch of them spending money like students, or whatever, people just hanging around, having a 2-year vacation in the opposite part, in somewhere else in the world, to get a feel for the ground of somewhere else, because your ground is Earth. Planet Earth it's round. You see what I'm saying? You want to get an experience of. You want your citizens to get an experience of a foreign land, but without the use of rifles. No rifles involved. Beach umbrellas. Bring your beach umbrella and go. Uncle Sam pays for it. As a in a very backpacking kind of expenses. If you say, okay, Uncle Sam will pay for it, and just as much as Uncle Sam is paying for a soldier. Just pay a young guy to go live there with a beach umbrella. He can probably make much better connections on the ground as a tourist as he can as a as a soldier. Soldiers, interaction of the soldier and the civilian public is very limited, intimidative, one-sided. So why not remove the soldier aspect of it, or keep the soldier aspect, whatever you want to do, but start sending your people not in a malicious way. You just want to know about the lands that you don't know much about. Make it make it a national honor to send your citizens, whoever was born wherever they were born, for 2 years they cannot live where they were born. You have to go in another country, another nation. What this concept that the British have come up with, because their island was limited, now everybody else's island has to be limited. Afghanistan has to become a landlocked bunch of people because the British idea was, let's draw lines on the ground. So some people were just left out of lines. A poor society on top of mountains, take 5-6 of them, bunch them up in one, and call it, Afghanistan. Afghans are one tribe of it. The other Tajik and their Pashtun and their Hazara and the Hazara and Sad Hazara. Fuck Maidi Gaidin Mara. The point is this. Naturally, these are 5 tribes on top of 5 mountains, which actually have a lot of connection to the valleys beneath them, which happen to be in a different country right now. They have attachments to those valleys. That's how the Pashtuns are. The mountain Pashtuns are on top of the mountains, and the valley Pashtuns, mountains of Afghanistan, and the valley Pashtuns are, in Pakistan. So the conservatives on top of the mountains are, Pashtuns are in Afghanistan, and the liberal Pashtuns are in Pakistan, because the valleys usually become liberal in such geographies, and the mountains become very, conservative. That's how geography works. That's how you animals, the conservatives stayed in the middle of top of mountains, and the conservatives stayed in the heart of a the deserts. That's how it was. Bad climate created very conservative people, because you had to keep whatever you had in order to keep life, and be ready to kill for whatever reason, just to stay alive. That's what desert people and mountain people experience because of their harsh conditions. But now throwing 5 mountain people, the conservative part of the Pashtuns, the conservative part of Hazara on top of their mountain. Now the Hazara on the bottom of the mountain, I think, is Iran. So very liberal Hazaras went down to the valleys in Iran, and the conservative Hazaras stayed on top of the fucking mountain head that they had. So here's Afghanistan has got, brilliant people have left Afghanistan because, on top of mountains, they're always going to stay conservative. At the most, Afghanistan can become a loose federation of something, but still they're going to have their border wars, and they're still going to have, at the most, it can be a federation of like 5-6 states, and they're not they're not there yet. It's not, you can't will governance anywhere when you break the brilliant structure, that brilliant in terms of brilliant is in terms of delicate china structure of a society, by going for the jugular. Oh, we're gonna you're bad people, we're gonna do something bad to you. It's sort of like, at that point we are back into the caves. Why? If you can solve the problem with dialogue, that is to send your people over there and invite their people to you. If this dialogue starts in normal, let's put it this way. What if United States starts issuing 500,000 work visas to the El Salvadorans? Let's get this shit over with. Start issuing visas. Start issuing the embassies start issuing visa. They want to come here to work. How many is the total population? Is 2 million. If you let 500,000 of them start working in the United States with work visa, bring an ID, bring a fucking passport, and we fingerprint you. When we take your DNA, but we give you permission, we will also look up your ass, but we will give you permission to, become a worker in Uncle Sam's land. And, this is one way you can, but support your own young people. Those young people could have done those jobs, menial jobs that maybe a guy from El Salvador is willing to work for. You bring that guy in and give him that work that he's willing to work for, that is educated enough to work in that job. They will rise. But at the beginning, for many years, they have to, get used to the society, learn the language, and then they may rise. But then you start sending your own citizens, or your own citizens are above that kind of work. Okay, send your own citizens overseas. Support them. Everybody becomes a draft of a kind. We have a military draft. This would be a tourist draft, and just make it as inviting as possible. It's a tourist draft. It's a tourist draft. Everybody have to come in. We send you. Sometimes you may get a choice of locality that you want to go, that you prefer to go. Most of the times, no. It's up to the lottery where you go in the world to spend 2 years of. So this is my attempt of making this thing better. So in other words, what I'm trying to say is that you're very thankful for where you're living, as I am, extremely grateful for Uncle Sam to allow me to live here, extremely grateful. But there are things that, as a good guest, if you see something, say something. And this is my attempt at that proverb that they say, if you see something, say something. Well, I'm seeing something. The deficiencies that I'm seeing in politics, I'm pointing it out. The deficiencies that I'm seeing in politics that is happening on planet Earth, I'm just pointing it out. There are deficiencies in cultures, there are deficiencies in politics, there are deficiencies, economic deficiencies. It's sort of like, here's the thing. Another thing I've noticed, Uncle Sam, you cannot fix political deficiencies by applying economic deficiencies. You can't do that. What are you doing is you're saying, oh no, you're deficient. We're going to also make your economy inefficient. it's we're not helping. I'm trying to say, Uncle Sam, if you see Venezuelans are not, are out of key. Let's put it this way: on the symphony that is Earth, if you see Venezuelans are out of tune, what do you do with a musician who's out of tune with the orchestra? You don't smack him upside the head and say, "Motherfucker!" You just don't do that. You just don't do that, because whatever kind of concentration the guy had, whatever kind of concentration that the guy had, now with that action of putting economic sanctions on top of political shit show that is going on there, you're not helping. Because it's like, imagine the musician who's in the symphony is trying to be in key, but for some reason that morning he didn't got off the bed on the right side of the bed, so there is already inefficiency there. He's out of key, as far as you believe. We are imagining America believes that America is the the master, whatever the fuck his name is, the master of the orchestra, and he's conducting this beautiful sound, and Uncle Sam sees himself as such. Lead. Well, we have to lead a lot of time. Lead comes in. That means I'm leading this motherfucker. Yes, okay, fine. Love you, Uncle Sam, but the point is this. It becomes for us to figure out that, okay, Uncle Sam, if somebody's out of key, by kicking them up the ass, not helping. Because just like kicking a musician who's out of key, if you're the orchestra leader, Uncle Sam, by kicking these motherfuckers who are out of key, you're not helping, because the guy got out of bed the wrong side of the bed yesterday morning. And, a motherly hug would give Venezuela a much better, idea of being in key, becoming in key, and, helping the orchestra. Or a motherly hug would, help Venezuela much better than a fatherly kick in the ass. It's just that motherly hug, it's not a military thing to do. And military makes a lot of money for a lot of people. The generals are, they're the signature people. But the reality is, because the defense makes so much money, can is allowed to charge the government's exuberance, price tags for, toys that kill, toys that go boom, boom. Those toys, they tell these, these politicians that these toys cost a lot of money. So you gotta pay these fucking monies because we are going hunting. And that doesn't make sense for a forward-looking Tesla Sam, Uncle Sam, or Tesla Sam. For the whole idea of a battery Sam is beyond that. Battery Sam is thinking of, going and colonizing Mars. Just leave the fuckheads, leave the shed holes to shed holes, keep a sort of, carrot or 2 carrot or 3 carrot. Instead of carrot and a stick, do carrot, 2 carrot, 3 carrot, 4 carrot. It's as simple as that. It doesn't have to be a stick. It can be a carrot, 2 carrot, 3 carrot. Basically, if you follow me, you will be led into the pile of the carrot. 1 carat, 2 carat, 3 carat, 4 carat, that is the sanctions. Not only lift them, but lift them more and lift them more and lift them more and lift them more until the motherfucker musician comes in key with the rest of the system. You can lead much better as a leadership. We have to lead. Uncle Sam has to lead. Love you, man. Yes, Uncle Sam has to lead. But lead with carrots, you know, give a motherly hug to these motherfuckers who seem to be out of key. Motherly hug means tourists, trade. Buy whatever they're fucking selling, buy whatever, not only blockade them, but buy whatever they're selling and give them more for it, you know, above their asking price. What if they start loving you just because you're paying over asking price? Dude, you're printing the money. You can't pay over the asking price. If you think that a country, you know, going to waste over there, send them more tourists. Send them more tourists and pay a little more for their product. Or if their product is, you know, but the way you're applying this, here's what I'm saying, Uncle Sam. But the only, basically treat everybody like you treat South Korea. This is what I'm trying to say, Uncle Sam. If you treat everybody like you treat Sweden, just because of, I guess, that issue you have with the Russians, the way you treat the Scandinavians, the Northern Europeans, you know, with love and respect and, you know, favors and, you know, everybody likes to be treated like that. The way you're, well now, treating the Japanese or especially the South Koreans, but it seems you're following this help is attached to being perfectly in key. Uncle Sam, there are 250 countries in the world. 250 something countries in the world. These countries, it's a big symphony. So I'm trying to say it's a big orchestra, planet Earth. Now, if you say you're leading, you want to lead, we are the leaders, okay. You gotta give motherly hug to whoever the fuck is out of key, because by kicking them, you might as well close down the orchestra. Imagine, Uncle Sam. That's why this leadership, there's a global leadership issue, is Uncle Sam, because you're not, imagine, this is what Uncle Sam has been doing for the past, after World War II, and the Europeans, again, here's the thing, Uncle Sam. There is a symphony, planet Earth. Now, if you say you're the leader, you're the leader of the symphony, great, love you, man. Now, as a leader of the symphony, there are going to be a few people out of key, probably every day, because you know there is a big, large number of people who are, you know, rehearsing together. There's going to be some people out of key, couple of people at least out of key, at least at the beginning of the day, because they just didn't wake up at the right side of the bed. These are the countries that for whatever reasons there has been some political upheaval. Maybe there is some grumbling in the rear and the grumbling in the end, and things happen. The best solution for this is to, you know, put more money in it before things break down. You know, before for some reason there is some kind of issue. In order to bring down the temperature, more bread, more money always is better than less money. So, and more interaction is always better than less interactions. So if these rules are understood, that more is better, more interaction, more communication, more involvement, if we agree that this is better, well, these countries, you need to interact with them. So, and as a leader, you can you have two choices as a leader of this symphony. When somebody is out of key, you can go kick their ass, but every time you do that, for that day, orchestra is over because that guy is not there. It's not a real rehearsal because the guy is not going to become in key after he gets a beating up his ass. Afghanistan and Iraq have both gone more out of key, and the Iranians are, their hands are trembling, and so is the Israelis. Their hands are trembling, and everybody is trembling because instead of enjoying each other's company, you guys are more interested in stardust. I mean, the what we have is stardust that has clumped together, has formed Earth, and there is no over your real estate issues, folks. It just doesn't make sense. Why not, send your people, even if you have to force them as a mandatory national service to go become tourists. And this is out of love. It's like my pink skin friends that you might say that, hey, if you don't like it, why don't you leave? It's like, no, I love it. I love Uncle Sam. I love it. I know that if I have said half of what I've said in Uncle Sam's land, if I've said half of that in the shithole that I was born in, I would be in Evin prison sometime now. Or I would be beaten up down the street every other night. So I'm grateful for the security and the stability that Uncle Sam provides on his own land, more or less. But relative. Everything is relative. So the point is this. Knowing this, and knowing how grateful I am as a grateful guest, I'm saying that might be better if you start, giving more carrots to those guys who are out of key. A motherly hug. Instead of a fatherly kick in the ass, let's give, Venezuela a motherly hug. Trade them, make them most favorite nation to trade with, trade more with them, and send them tourists, and then invite the motherfucker over for dinner. Legit. It's sort of like this guy has some kind of order going on there, or he has got order. They're not slitting each other's throat down the street yet. So he has kept order. Order is good. Let's trade with them. Let's see if we can change his mind to come into key. Let's see if we can appease him so he would come into key. If the idea is leadership, to run Earth as a symphony, you do not create a better symphony by kicking as a conductor of the symphony. You will not get a better. You will never get a better result if you start kicking these musicians up the ass every time somebody goes out of the key. You go over there and let the mother have a 25 cruise missiles, with 25 cruise missiles up his ass, and let's see if we can get him to sing in key. It doesn't work that way. Every time you do this, the orchestra has to go home for the day. Because you've lost the whole leadership thing, and you lost the whole cohesiveness of the situation. And folks, running this symphony that is Earth, you cannot give it to any actor, singer, dancer, wrestler. You can't do that. This is a delicate order that is the empire, that is the conductor of the fucking symphony. This guy cannot be a showman. It just can't. You cannot candidate a showman. Because do you want to give the keys to your battleship to the cook? To the cook. Average George. Or is it the arms manufacturers in specific, and in corporations in general, because they're all in favor of war, because war is an economic miracle. War is an economic miracle. If you have to produce something because everybody has lost their shit, so you have to produce an upgrade. Now we go into this gear, and now we go to this gear, and we got a left hand and a right hand, and we have a what? The triangle of death, the land-based and the sea-based and the undersea-based nuclear arms and their upgrade, and you're thinking, why not bring down the tension with sending tourists? Okay, keep the arms. That's good for arms manufacturers. But the sooner Uncle Sam guides these arms manufacturers towards space, and the sooner the system guides these motherfuckers, the arms manufacturers, towards more space-related production and revenue, the faster that happens, which, Trump had the right idea. In that case, Trump had the right idea. It's sort of like, okay, if we have to spend money for these motherfucker industrialists to give us very expensive rockets, okay, let's go, and rockets and other very expensive toys and tools, okay, let's go to space. And if you can guide all these guys towards space, and ask if the army starts gets these guys involved into space business, that would be much better. But not in space business of how we can defend our piece of land, this space business of how we can get more land on Mars and Moon. Just go over there, draw a line on it, and say, this is mine. You can, if you're the first one there or the second one there, you can get a lot of, a value for your buck. Zambia is not going to have any land on Mars soon. So Zambia is going to be, the equivalent to Zambia. A Zambian would not, own any Mars land. This is what I'm trying to say, as a nation. But the point is this, and there is nothing wrong with that. Humanity is not that smart. If all these brains were scattered all over the world, would be less efficient in communication. But with the invention of the internet, the geniuses can stay in their home and still work for NASA. You can have a NASA engineer working in Zambia, doing whatever they want to do, but that income that is equivalent to an American income engineer, that would go a long way in Zambia in helping his own country. That would go a long way. It's folks, kicking the ass. My military friends, my military American military folks, we love you. Veterans or current, we love you. You are the guys in the tribe who said, I am willing to risk my life in the protection of my tribe. But what if, there is some of you, but what if they send 80% of you instead of, giving you some stipend and a monthly income, and instead of carrying guns overseas, what if they say, here's the same money, you can go over there in that country and do whatever you want. You have to abide by the local laws. Here's your identity. You have a passport. You have a 6 months to 1 year to 1 year and a half to 2 year visa from that, grateful government. You have that. You go over there and do whatever you want. You want to go work. You want to go learn the language full time. You want to go by the beach full time. Go ahead. What I'm saying, Uncle Sam, is this idea would create this, my veteran friends, this would create a very, you're the guys who are willing to put your life on the line for Uncle Sam. Wow. Uncle Sam is very grateful that you're willing to do that. Uncle Sam is going to send you as a tourist, give you the same money that he was giving you as a soldier, nothing more, no more, same money that Uncle Sam was giving you to walk around and, learn how to salute. That same money is given to you, but this time you just got to go over there and mingle, do whatever, go study in their universities, go learn something. Go teach something. Go teach individuality. Go teach freedom. Go teach whatever you want to teach. But here is Uncle Sam is paying you monthly stipend to go and teach them. So going and teaching them about the ideas such as individuality, which is, a good idea. And slowly can be learned. But do this learning not at the bottom of the barrel, sort of like, here's democracy, open your mouth. Eat democracy or open your mouth. so it doesn't work that way. A kick in the ass, you cannot get a better performance from a musician in an orchestra that is earthed by kicking them upside the ass. You can't get a better performance. Iraq is going to be out of key for a couple of decades in the future. Still out of key. Another Bush? One Bush started it, one Bush ended it. Why? Is that musician is anytime coming back into key anytime soon? No. He's out for a month. He's out for, in real life, the way, a musician would be treated, the way Iraq was treated, I mean, the financial help that went in after Saddam to Iraq, that financial help should have gone in before Saddam. Before, as in like during Saddam. Before the end of Saddam. There was a lot of financial help given to Iraqis after Saddam. And that the idea of the pallets of cash. Why not, you don't have to do pallets of cash. You just have to send tourists. While Saddam was there, send more tourists. All you did was you send them arms. You sold them arms. You were caught red-handed selling the other side arms too. I'm not sure. The whole idea of the Oliver North thing was that the whole problem with the Oliver North thing was that some people had decided who's the friend, who's the foe. Decided that Iraqis are the friends and the Iranians are the foe. And Oliver North, basically needed to sell some arms to get some money to do something else. Decided to, okay, we sell to these guys, the other side. It's sort of like the whole idea of selling arms, taking sides, selling arms to these lands that you're not really sure of either. I mean, Saudi Arabia, how sure you are that is going to stay Saudi Arabia as is, as a friend for a lot longer. They're up to their eyeballs in debt. Very expensive desert to run. And, this corona thing is going to ruin their Hajj as well. So oil money down, Hajj money down, and they have a very expensive desert to run. So I'm not sure. I mean, the whole idea of selling arms to states that cannot produce them themselves. You see, would you let's imagine that you go find an Indian tribe in the middle of the Amazon rainforest. Would you give this tribesman as a salesman, could you in clear conscience give one of these Indians a handgun, a loaded handgun with the trigger already pulled? Would you, with the hammer already pulled, would you give that tribesman a loaded gun? You wouldn't. So now, if the tribesman can build the gun himself, then I guess he's proven he has some kind of upper hemisphere of his brain is working. So maybe if they can make it, maybe they're responsible enough to know not to use it. And how you can bring the stress down? Easy. Tourists. I mean, if you have at any given time 20,000 tourists in Iran, tourists of Uncle Sam, 20,000 at any given time, the Iranians would feel safe. Because they would, if you want them not to, pursue any kind of harder weaponry, don't close the door on them. Send in more tourists. Send them as much tourists as they say they can handle. And the idea is that by this sending tourists, sending them more money, more, education, more learning, more Americans learning about the land, and more, telling interaction with the locals, and I'm sure the Iranians at that point would feel safe, and I'm sure they would stop, trying to develop stronger weapons. It just makes sense, Uncle Sam. This is not a patriotic issue or a not patriotic issue. This is basically logic. If the guy is, let's put it this way. Do you think if your neighbor Do you think if they have a if they have a little relationship issue, do you think it would help if you drew a wall around them and say, prevented them to come out and attend to their economic issue? If they have a relationship issue, do you think it would help if you try to stop their economic issues by some kind of embargo? Do you think it helps? I think not. I think not. It does not help if a family and the family next door is going through some relationship issues which you can compare to political issues, relationship issues, political issues. A musician being out of key, it only helps if you go and become that. Send more help, more tourists, more trade. Okay, what do you have I can buy? Bring it in. What do you have I can buy? Bring it in. And by doing that, you get more involved in those areas that are out of key. That's like giving him a hug. That's like giving them a hug. If you can give him a hug and bring him into key, why kick him upside the ass? Because that certainly is not going to bring him into key. You see what I'm saying? It just never helps. And when you look at Iraq, Afghanistan, Somalia, wherever, Libya, wherever the pink-skinned powers of the West have been involved, wherever they have been involved, you see every time the musician has got their ass handed to them. They've removed the head of state, is basically kicking out one musician, trying to bring in another musician. And in a country like Libya, their musicians are, they're not known for their musicians. And leadership is a kind of music. It's like conducting an orchestra. That's another orchestra. But the point is this, Uncle Sam, if you are the conductor, not the boss, but the conductor of this orchestra, if you want to be the conductor of this orchestra, it's only logical for you to adapt a more motherly tone. That is, you see, if some countries go out of key, you send them more tourists. You invest more in their land. You give them more, buy more of their stuff. You do this motherly hug, and you have a much better chance of them coming into key today. You see, you beat their ass, they're going to go, be in the hospital for the next month. If you beat their ass, the musician's ass. But if you give them a motherly hug, you may be able to, bring everybody into key within years by a motherly hug. I mean, if you stop this, nonsense of if you're not in key with our orchestra, we're going to embargo you, sanction you, kick you upside the ass. It's like, no, that doesn't happen. It doesn't happen. It will not, by kicking them, embargoing them, making them go hungry, it will not help them come to back to key. This applies to China, this applies to Russia, this applies to Europe, this applies to Africa, this applies to Pakistan. If you want everybody in key, Uncle Sam, you have to try to mother them, not father them. And mothers are more, let me give a hug and make the world better to a child. Let me give a hug and make the world better. And the fathers are like, let me give a kick upside the ass and see if we can make the world better. And that has been the problem. This masculinity of politics. The army is always masculine. The politicians, become masculine because, capitalism also, very selfish, masculine, antisocial individuals reach the top of the hierarchy of capitalism. So you have these overly masculine people, trying to kick each other's ass to show each other how bad they are. Well, a little primitive, if you ask me. It's better to get rid of any kind of issues that might be by tourism. More trade, more tourism, more investment, more trade, more tourism, more investment, not less. I mean, here's the thing, Uncle Sam. I love Jewish people. It's just that by investing too much in one piece of the land, you are creating one piece of land in West Asia. You're creating, and this is all investment, in political investment, economic investment, a technological investment. In Israel, great. That's not a bad thing. But by not investing a same amount in the lands around it, you are creating a very, upsetting imbalance. You are creating the upsetting imbalance. You are promoting one group of people and demoting a large number of people in the Middle East. I'm not against the promotion of one group of people. I like Jewish people. Israel, I don't know. I don't think, I think it's a pink skin colony. Because, 80% of Jewish people are European Jews. They are by blood. It's in Wikipedia. So it's a pink skin colony. Israel is a pink skin colony in West Asia. And that's the whole issue. That's the whole problem. Because it's a pink skin colony. And, for heaven's sakes, Israel... soccer, they do soccer as a couple of teams in European Union. They have for soccer. It's sort of like you're in Asia. How is it that you're in European Union soccer? And the whole idea is because they're pink skin. Some of their players were actually playing over there in Europe, and then they ended up here. Now they're playing here, but they're comfortable playing with their friends back home. So that's that. So just by the football league, by the soccer league of Europe, which also involve Israel, you can tell that Israel is a pink skin colony. People of pink skin origin from Europe have decided to land in West Asia. Now, nothing wrong with that. Me, immigrant too. Thankful for it. But treating the locals as second-class citizen, that's, you're the foreign guy, but it's not enough to ask for equal treatment as the locals. It's saying that we as the non-locals are first-class citizens and the non-locals are second-class citizens. Well, who else did that? They did that in North America. They did that in South America. They did that in Australia. They did that in South Africa. The Pinkskins came in. They said, we got the structure of government. The locals, you can go jump in the sea. We are the government. We are the structure of government. We Pinkskins, and you, the locals, whoever the fuck you are, go jump in the sea. Or else. Well, that's exactly what's happening in Israel. And why not invest in all of them? It's by tourists. Uncle Sam, you are underestimating my veteran friends, my current military friends. You are underestimating the value of tourists. You are underestimating the value of a tourist in spreading the good word regarding individuality, regarding whatever Uncle Sam stands for. Whatever Uncle Sam stands for shall be spread by Uncle Sam's citizens. And those good citizens, the ones who finish high school. The 2 years of mandatory tourist service must be the best thing as people should look forward to. The people of under age 18. They should look forward to graduating just for the purpose of going on just with the looking forward to vacationing for 2 years with measly income that Uncle Sam will provide outside of the U.S. And while they're studying, one of their assignments studying in primary school, one of their assignments should be, choose which, if you would go, choose which country you will go to. Bring it part of their curriculum. Here's the thing, Uncle Sam. I love you, man. The problem is this is part of the curriculum of the wealthy caste on your land. So the wealthy people of your land, Uncle Sam, do exactly this. Many of their children, do get to live in other countries in younger ages and do get a different perspective in life at those ages. It does affect them to some degree. But if this, and it becomes a privilege for them. It's something that helps them make better decisions in their own life. This mixing with other cultures just for a little bit as tourists. The majority of your population, Uncle Sam, doesn't get that taste because of economic reason. So if you make it mandatory and you pick up the tab, it's going to be minuscule as compared to the military budget. It's going to be minuscule because you're just hiring soldiers, you're just hiring citizens, you're just hiring young people for a very cheap price, $2,000, whatever you pay a soldier, and you don't need to provide him with barracks, and you don't need to provide them with heavy equipment, and you don't need to do any of that. Beach umbrella. Send them there. You say you bring your own thing. We just provide a beach umbrella and $2,000 a month. Go, live, do whatever. But this is good, Uncle Sam. My veteran friends, I'm sure many of you would have, who are, were ready to serve your country. I think, this is what serving your country is. This could be, and I'm sure many of you would have preferred if your tour of duty was such that as a tourist. I'm sure you would have preferred it, and I'm sure you would have enjoyed it more. Just imagine that before the Iraq War, let's say a decade before the Iraq War, just imagine, let's imagine together. Uncle Sam decides to, a decade before the start of Iraqi war. This one example. A decade before the start of the war, Uncle Sam decides to start sending tourists to Iraq. More. These young people who are recruited, they're given money to go spend somewhere as a tourist. I just imagine the United States slowly started increasing the number of people that the United States sends to Iraq to just live there, learn the language, get to know the people, whatever. Go to university, go read and study something, go by the beach. Just that act, if I believe, and I'm sure the Iraqis, the Saddam would have been fine with it. He would have been fine. Yes, American tourists come spend money on my land, of course. Please, how many? How many do you want sent? I'm sure he would have been fine with it. And just that would have meant that, the point that the army, the military forces of U.S. was mentioned many over and over and again, hearts and minds, trying to win over their hearts and minds. Yes, that's a good idea. That's the whole point. But imagine how much hearts and minds you could win without first kicking their ass. You see, hearts and minds is sort of like the father who just kicked your ass and then comes and, rubs your hair. I just got my ass handed to me. Please don't touch my hair. This hearts and this idea that after Fallujah, we're gonna win hearts and minds. You can pay them; they will become your allies for a while. But folks, why not go for hearts and minds before kicking their ass? Why not send tourists there? Why not trade more with them? Whenever somebody goes out of key, you try to increase some of your purchases from there. Increase the number of tourists that these kind of drafted tourists that you send them. Increase it, just to find out what's going on. Not covertly in the way of CIA and no, just people. What the people are saying. First-hand information comes out of people who, their 2-year stint is over there. Now they're just back after 2 years of spending time. It's common knowledge. This is common knowledge. This is that. You do a debriefing, and then you have to close one very expensive office in CIA that's got the name Pakistan on it. If you have 10,000 Americans arriving per year to Pakistan, and 10,000 Americans leaving Pakistan per year, just because it's an iffy country, it needs a little more attention and more love before it goes totally out of key and fucks up the whole orchestra. Well, let's send them more people, more tourists. More of our people have to be there to learn what is the problem. Maybe tell the people, maybe talk to people maybe about solutions to problems. And the more talking it happens, the less ass kicking happens. When there is more talky, there is less ass kicky. And as simple as that. and so this is, I love the service people. I was forced to serve 2 years as well. Well, I was forced, but I it was hell. But the point is this: yeah, that means I've done some draft. I was drafted and did 2 years of military service, but you guys are, the guys who actually said, I am willing to sacrifice. That's a great thing, and you should be appreciated by, be given a beach umbrella to go live in Chad for 2 years, or for however many years the host country is comfortable with issuing tourist visa. If they're uncomfortable with a 6-month tourist visa, okay, go live there for 6 months, and then, we give you another country, or you pick another country, and 6 months. If they're also comfortable with only 6 months tourists, okay, you change couple of 4 countries in a year. Better in some ways, a little, worse in some other ways. Better in terms of you get more taste of more, and less good because you may not get the taste beneath the surface. When the time is short, you don't get to taste beneath the surface, you just get to taste the surface. But anyway, that can be worked out eventually. Once the host countries figure out that this is not there is no malicious intent behind this, they would, for sure, they would want to keep those of these youngsters who stay within the local laws. I'm sure they will allow them to stay more than 6 months once the locals who are suspicious figure out there is no malicious intent behind this act. But the point is this: you got to do this tourist service instead of military service, tourist service, and make it a draft so everybody has to serve. And there is a lot of good can be said about the draft in general, the whole idea of the draft, because not only these people are going to be drafted, and different economic backgrounds, or Americans are going to be living next to each other, which brings about a much more cohesive society than a society in which only the poor people go to the army and they only rub shoulders with each other. I think the right army for any nation, if there is a need for an army, is an army that mixes the poor and the rich together. And because this poor and the rich, eventually they have to form one nation later on. And it's better for the rich to have had it, have some poor friends, and it's good for the poor people to have some rich friends later on in life. So in that way, maybe may the society have a better cohesiveness. This is as simple as it gets, folks. I mean, a draft is a good idea. Military draft, not so much. Better to have a tourist draft. You have a deficiency of your media has put. Your media has done a very good job of reporting to, especially Americans, Uncle Sam's people. The media has not done a great job of representing the rest of the planet to Americans. Here's the thing: when you have an over budget of influence, when you have an over budget of influence because you are the conductor of the orchestra, you must be willing to do more motherly hug than fatherly ass kicking. It's just as simple as that. Your people must, first the rich and the poor come together in this 2 years of service, and especially put the rich and the poor together overseas. A bunch of rich and poor Americans together overseas on a tourist assignment, on their 2 years tourist assignment. Imagine how well bonded these people are going to return. And that's what you want when you have well bonded. When you have well bonded, when you have well bonded people, you have a cohesive society. The way you bond people together is you bring them together. Sometimes it has to be a little forceful, coercive. That is to say, mandatory national tourist service, 2 years. Everybody, rich and poor, has to coming, and as such, everybody would be looking forward to finishing their high school to go on the 2 year mandatory tourist service at the service of Uncle Sam, at the request of Uncle Sam. And it's just the luck of the draw. And I'm sure you can bring much better order, much more long-lasting order that you have been able to bring, Uncle Sam, that you can ever think of bringing by, bombing and kicking ass and not taking names and kicking more ass. It just doesn't happen. That crystal, that China, that is the social structure of a land, that China is a China. You can't kick its ass. You can polish it, you can, clean it, you can, try to draw on it something better, something more pleasant. But it's a piece of china. It's delicate. By kicking its ass, the musician, by kicking his ass, he's not gonna get back into key. This is very simple, folks. But it is not simple for a kid from East Texas, or a family who lived in the suburbs of East Texas and run some, business with some buddies and some, made some money and, now I want to be president. It doesn't happen. It happens when you have PhDs. When you have PhDs, running the show. When you have very intelligent people running the show who understand that the answer is 1 carat, 2 carat, 3 carat, 4 carat, okay, until you can join the orchestra. And that's why, a woman as the king of the Germans is always a good idea. Because, Germans who are basically, thankfully, running Europe, British are out of key. The British are always out of key. Out of key. Brexit was out of key. Out of key. It's sort of like, okay, we got a symphony going here and the British over there. There goes. It's shameful the way, the British cannot keep in key. The British always have to, be an orchestra of one, and they always start the wars. Yeah, wars start not by who shoot the first bullet. War starts by who, stops the other guy from eating. That's when wars start. It's all question of stopping the other side from eating, so hopefully they change their political view. They change their leadership. What difference does that make? If it's the idea is to bring order, what difference does it make who the fuck is the leader? If the idea is that they already have order, okay, let's see how we work with them so they can keep this order. Folks, I look at it from a perspective of an alien who just, looking down on us and is learning about us. From his perspective, is sort of like, you guys are, apparently you guys don't understand motherly love, motherly hug. Okay, if there's a country in trouble, we don't go with our guns, we go with more tourists, more money, purchase more stuff from them, more tourists, purchase just two things, nothing more. Just more tour. If there is a country there, if there is a piece of geography on planet Earth, if there is a piece of geography, not even a country, fuck. If there is a piece of geography on somewhere on planet Earth that you feel they're out of key with the orchestra that is Earth, just do two things. Buy more things from them and send more of your tourist citizens there, the ones with the 2-year service. Send more of them over there. End of story. Yeah, if you do these two things, Uncle Sam, trade more, buy more from them. You can, if your money is too strong, you can't sell them more than they can handle because your money is too strong. Whatever you produce is very expensive, so you can't come. In that terms, they cannot buy too much from you because at the beginning they're going to be very poor. So it's going to be a little one-sided. You have to buy more from them and sell however much they want, they can afford to buy. But buy more from them and send them more tourists. I mean, I love my army folks, but I'm sure you would prefer to spend, your life serving your country with a beach umbrella. I'm sure you prefer that. If it's serving, who cares how you're serving? Holding a beach umbrella or holding an M16? Beach umbrella. Uncle Sam wants you to serve with a beach umbrella. Have a nice day. I'm sure you guys would love it too. And believe me, at the end, it gives much better results. Because the idea is bringing the other country back into key. Bringing the other country back into the symphony so it would be pleasant. And that only happens with a hug, which is buying more and sending tourists more. Then you will have heaven on earth. They don't need to go for 72 virgins. Maybe they get their 72 virgins here. I mean, that's as simple as it gets. I mean, if you can have it better, on Earth, why these motherfuckers would choose to are looking for their their virgins in heaven. That's the whole point. If you can, transfer some of the illuminated ones into some backward places, those backward places will also be illuminated. And the illuminated will also learn a few things about life firsthand. I think that's the only way to do this. You will have thousands of years of peace if you force your citizens to spend 2 years in faraway lands, at least. Because when a young person of that age is spending 2 years in the other part of the world, on the other part of your planet's geography, their family probably will visit them once or twice during that 2 year stint. Therefore, you have more tourists, more communication, better understanding, a little more money, and because these guys are at the beginning of their life, relationships will develop that will be that is very long lasting. So the whole idea, and that brings, then if one of these guys in the government needs to know something about the country that he doesn't know, he just, he has thousands of people in his own land who spent 2 years in that country. Some of them overstayed. Some of them are still there. Some of them spent 10 years there. They overstayed after their service was over. Let's ask them. So if there is anything you need to know, it can be known by tourists, by people who are, who spend a lot of time on the other side. In this way, you will never have to go to war because, everybody understands everybody and everybody has a piece in the game. I mean, if let's imagine that the Bushes had actually had any kind of family in Iraq or connected to Iraq. A cousin of the Bushes spent 2 years in Iraq. I don't think, I just don't think such thing would have happened like the Iraqi war. Because I don't think even 9/11 would have happened. Even the worst acts that you have seen, I think it would have not happened if there was this 2 years of service that every citizen on every country had to do and go to another country for 2 years. I think especially young ones between the ages of 18 and 20. I think in 20 years, in 50, in one generation, after such regulation is passed, in one generation, you will have an extremely different looking planet in terms of politics, after just one generation. If you do this for 25 years, the face of politics on planet Earth, the face of, it would be so different. It would be so different. I mean, they're actually bringing McCarthyism back. Trump, this Mr. Gates, and this Greenie, they're actually trying to bring McCarthyism back, and that is to say, no, 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 we want our kids to know less, to know less. Folks, they're actually saying that we want our kids to know less, that do not have access to certain books, certain information, certain website, because we want them to know less. We want them to know less. It's, you know, these guys, in my view, Miss Greenie, Mr. Gates, Mr. Trump, none of these, I believe, would have been the person they are, or Mitch McConnell, or, you know, or very conservative people. I do not think they would remain be so conservative today if they had spent 2 years of their life on Uncle Sam's dime, living as a tourist in some shed hole. I mean, I would think Mitch McConnell would be a totally different person. I would think Trump would be a totally different person. I think because it's a 2 years of tourist service, I think even Trump would not try to, you know, get out of it with bone spurs, or, you know, any kind, and other rich people who had, you know, they didn't answer the call of draft, military draft. I believe you would not have anybody who have any kind of objection to, you know, having to spend 2 years overseas. Even the Amish would have no objection to that. Even the Amish, the Mennonites, the Mormons actually do it. 2 years. So let's learn from the Mormons, my pink-skinned friends, my American friends, my veteran friends. Let's have this. Let's do as the Mormons do. Send the young out for 2 years to do service for their tribe. In this case, their tribe is Uncle Sam's land. In this case, the tribe is Uncle Sam's land. If you send them out to see the world as an Uncle Sam citizens, it's just, there is nothing better. They come back with both feet on the ground. Men and women of character, because, you know, they have taken care of themselves. They have learned. They have thought. They have thought individualism.